Hello and welcome to our penultimate preview show of the season here at Vitality Stadium. Matchday commentator Kris joins me as we look ahead to another big weekend in the Premier League. Here's what's coming up today. We'll be looking back at that thrilling 3-3 draw at St Mary's last weekend. We'll also be discussing Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson and letting you know how you can win their FIFA Ultimate Team cards. And finally, we'll be looking ahead to tomorrow's game against Tottenham here at Vitality Stadium. Well, we're going to start back at last weekend and that 3-3 draw at St Mary's. Kris, last week we were stood here saying that these games lacked goals, they lacked entertainment, and then we had a 3-3 draw.
We had some shockers, that is for sure, and last week was everything but. It was brilliant. Great game. Bournemouth should have won it, right at the end. Callum's got that chance that it would have been harsh on Southampton to win, to have taken the win there. But those fans who travelled 3,000 odd would have absolutely delighted. But yeah, it was a strange old game, as a lot of Bournemouth games have been this season. It would be widely admitted that Bournemouth were absolutely awful for 20 minutes, really bad. The wind wasn't helping, but Bournemouth just couldn't seem to get any sort of passing going, couldn't get any momentum, couldn't get out their own half really for 20 minutes. I think they did well to keep it at 1-0. At that stage, obviously Shane Long misses that golden opportunity, hits the post from an open goal. If Saints score a second in the first half, then I think it's a very difficult afternoon. But the equalising goal, I mean, if that had been scored by one of the big clubs, if that had had Messi finishing it, then that would have had so much attention. It's had a little bit through the club's social media channels, and I think one or two other places have tweeted it out, but that was absolutely sublime. It was brilliant. Even the first decision from Jefferson Lerma in the penalty area, just to play a cushion pass to Joshua King, and then to work their way out from their own 6-yard box, and then Dan Gosling, just went for smash it and hope. It was a brilliant goal, and that was what they needed, just to be the catalyst to get them going. And then obviously, the first 20 minutes, the second half, they weren't very good either. But Callum and Ryan Fraser, we've seen them. We'll talk about them more in a minute, but we've seen them link up so many times, and they both produced when it mattered, albeit more injuries as well during the game. So it was an afternoon that had everything. A draw was probably about right. If Bournemouth had nicked it, I think that would have been harsh on Southampton.
And you mentioned that first goal there, 5 passes from one penalty area to the other, and now that goal's been up for goal of the month in the Premier League as well. Yeah, and
when you say 5 passes, it doesn't sound quite as good as it was, but actually they were 5 good decisions. Every pass was spot on. Joshua King has to be given enormous credit for having 2 roles in the move as well. His pass to Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson chose the right pass at the final sort of throws of the move as well. So yeah, often you'll see volleys into the top corner or things win those Premier League goal of the month, but if you're going on a team goal, it has to be Premier League team goal of the month, I think, for sure.
And of course Callum Wilson, another 2 goals for him. There's no stopping him, is there?
No, he was kicking himself after the game, that he didn't have a hat-trick, taking the match ball home and the winning goal as well after that chance, which you'd say, I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, I'd probably say 8 out of 10 you'd expect him to score. There's been 1 or 2 occasions this season when we've talked about it before, maybe chances that he's had that he should take that he hasn't, but he said he got it a bit stuck under his feet, and it didn't quite work out for him. So yeah, but 2 goals, and both Johnny on the spot goals as well, both sort of poachers goals in the 6-yard box. We've seen him score all types of goals this season, so for him, he says that's the goals he likes, probably because you can't miss from there, but yeah, I think it shows if you're a fox in the box, that's really what number 9s are all about. That's their bread and butter, if you like. So, yeah, for him, great. And now his goals tally's looking really healthy. 14 in the Premier League, 1 for England, 1 in the Cup as well. So, yeah, his goals tally's looking really good.
And from being 2-1 up to then 3-2 down, it was important to get that point and something for their efforts, wasn't it?
Yeah, and, it would have been easy then with Dan Gosling limping off as well. And all of a sudden you've got Emerson Hyndman coming on who, again, with the greatest respect, hasn't played a minute in the Premier League this season, hasn't been in and around it, really. So it's a big game for him to come into, and I think he struggled to make his impact really the way the game was stretched at that point. But it was end to end, and either team could have won it at the end. So I think it was very important for Bournemouth, just for these last couple of games, and just generally for the spirit to come back and get something from the game. Because yeah, having got yourself 2-1 in front away from home, and then to suddenly find yourself, with the nature of the goals conceded as well, James Ward-Prowse, had too much time, and then Matt Targett to score his first ever Premier League goal, sneaking in at the back post. So yeah, the nature of the goals were disappointing as well. So yeah, it was nice to come back.
And for Eddie Howe, he made that early change and brought Ryan Fraser on, and he really made a difference, didn't he? Yeah,
he wasn't quite fit enough to start. I felt sorry for Chris Mepham, as I think most people did, that he got hauled off. He didn't have a It didn't have a great first 20 minutes. It was one of those days it just wasn't happening for him. He couldn't seem to find a teammate with a pass. Got out of position a couple of times as well. I think he maybe lost Shane Long for the first goal as well. So yeah, it was a difficult little spell for him, and that will happen at the fledgling stage of his Premier League career. There'll be moments like that where it does happen. You've got to give the manager credit for acting. He had to do something, and I think to act straight away, he said he asked Ryan Fraser if he was going to be fit enough to finish the game if they put him on at that stage, and he said he was. So and obviously, we know what Ryan Fraser brings, but just tweaking the system as well. Jack Simpson obviously was out of position on the left at the early stages of the game, dealing with the injury situation. So yeah, when you haven't got any right backs and you have to be creative, sometimes you'll try things that don't work, but I would say credit to the manager for acting and sorting it out.
Well, last weekend we saw Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson at it again, combining for their 12th goal of the season. Let's remind ourselves of it.
Great work from Jefferson Lerma to nudge Stuart Armstrong off it, and now it's Joshua King away, and Armstrong had a clip at him, but play goes on. Played in by King. Ryan Fraser's in behind it, drives it across goal, and Wilson puts it in. It's 3-3. Callum Wilson with a late equaliser, started by Lerma, continued by King, and Wilson puts it home. 4 minutes remaining, and the Cherries are back again. It's a humdinger on the south coast. It's Southampton 3, Bournemouth 3.
Absolutely incredible break. King, and then wee man had quite a bit to do, but he hit it hard and low across the face of goal, and Callum was there to get that extra touch on it, just to put it over the line. What a fantastic bit of character. And you did say to me before the game, 3-3.
Well, what a season they are having. Now, you may have noticed that we have got these FIFA Ultimate Team cards to give away. Ryan Fraser's is from the Brighton game and Callum Wilson's is from the Southampton game on the weekend. If you want to get your hands on one of these FIFA Ultimate Team cards, then just comment below on YouTube either your favourite Fraser moment or your favourite Wilson moment, and we'll pick a winner in the coming days. Now, Kris, it's been quite a season for them, hasn't it? Combined for 12 goals.
Yes, we saw again last weekend there that it's becoming the Fraser cross from the left and the Callum Wilson either poaching, or at Brighton we saw him take that ball in his stride and make the turn. They've become a combination that everyone's talking about. The match of the day, were highlighting them last weekend. It probably doesn't help, in the efforts to keep hold of them, particularly Ryan Fraser. But yeah, we've heard from the manager, and I think I said it last week. He can't explain why they've been such a potent combination, because it's not a partnership they particularly work on in training. He says it's just a bit of intuition between the two. They're on the same wavelength. They know where each other's going to be. I really think Ryan Fraser's crossing with his left foot and his massive improvement in that has made a big difference as well on this, because now if you watched him, you wouldn't know he wasn't left-footed. He absolutely fizzes those left-footed crosses in now, whereas in the past you think of the likes of Matt Ritchie and people, and sometimes David Brooks, looking to always get it onto their stronger foot, and Ryan Fraser in the past would have always been cutting off the left flank onto his right foot, whereas now he's just as adept at either foot, and I think that's what's made him so dangerous this season, is that fullbacks don't know which way he's going to go. So credit to him, he's worked really hard on his left foot, and I think that has been one of the key contributing factors to why he's been able to provide even more assists than usual, just getting that extra yard on the fullback.
And we've seen it so many times this season, the two of them combining. You think back to Leicester at the start of the season, Watford, and then more recently Brighton and Southampton. Yeah,
and at times, often when it's been needed as well, you need someone to do something. Whether it's Callum, a spectacular goal or a tap-in. He's got enough goals now that he's becoming your man to go to all of a sudden. Different types of goals. Often don't forget he's had a lot of games this season where he's played as a lone striker away at Man United, Tottenham. I'm picking games off at the top of my head here, but games where you're not going to get much service, you're not going to have much chance of scoring really. So when you think of what he's got, and he's missed 6 or 7 games, hasn't he, this season as well. He said last week he wasn't quite hitting his goal target for the season as yet. He's got 2 more games. We'll see against Tottenham if he could help the Cherries to their first ever victory.
And you say about goal targets, he's not been shy of goals this season, and of course he's got that England call up as well, so that really goes to show how far he's come.
Yeah, of course, no Harry Kane at the moment for England as well. So there's a England spot up for grabs potentially for the Nations League finals in June, depending on Harry Kane's recovery. But certainly for Callum Wilson, he needs to be knocking right at that door, and I think he's done enough in the last few weeks to certainly be in that squad and to be the next cab off the rank, but it's such a competitive England squad at the moment, and for people almost at the other end of their careers as well. You think of the Rashfords coming through and people like that. Sterling obviously is flying at the moment. All those guys that he has to try and displace in the team. So as long as he's in the squad, as long as he's in and around it, Gareth Southgate's shown he's not afraid to throw him in off the bench at times. But for him as the sort of focal point, he's always going to be behind Harry Kane, I think, at the moment. So while Harry Kane is not available, Callum needs to try and make that his spot.
And as for Ryan Fraser, his assists, they started so well and they've continued, and he's remaining at the top of the Premier League assist chart with Eden Hazard. Yeah,
he's tied. They're sort of neck and neck. It would be lovely for a wee man if he could just nudge or at least stay level, if not be out on his own by the end of the season. I mean, it's a real marker of what he's achieved this season, that he's up there with those kind of guys. You think of how influential Hazard is in matches, and Christian Eriksen, who's just behind them as well, who obviously will be here in the game tomorrow. So a battle of the two of the top assisters, if you like. But yeah, and again, Ryan Fraser would admit, and he has admitted, he had a lull in the middle of the season. So he's contributed at sort of both ends of the season, if you like. Had a quiet couple of months over Christmas when the games were tough. So yeah, who knows what he could have achieved if he'd have managed to keep his levels a little bit higher for the full season.
And the record for combined goals is Shearer and Sutton back in the 90s. They're one away from that with 2 games to go. Do you reckon they can make that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, that was in a 42-game season, actually. So Fraser and Wilson already have the record now for a 38-game season, which we are now in a 38-game Premier League. So, they will have the current record, if you like, but it would be nice to sort of go all-time, wouldn't it, and have the out-and-out record. So, yeah, as you say, they need one more to tie that. So, yeah, why not? I mean, the games that are here against Spurs, that will be 2 good footballing teams tomorrow. So, hopefully a nice open game, and there's got to be a chance that they can combine again.
Absolutely. Well, ahead of our game against Spurs, we revealed our 2019-2020 home kit, and here's a little look at it if you haven't seen it already. Well, there it is, and we'll be wearing it against Spurs here at Vitality Stadium tomorrow. Kris, we've got one here. What do you make of it?
I'm doing quite a good job as a model today. I've got my FIFA cards and now my shirt as well. I know my calling at last is just to stand here and hold things up. It's very nice. I've got to say, the red sleeves are a different red to the rest of the shirt, of course. On first look, I wasn't sure about the red sleeves, but now I actually see it in person. Very nice, and obviously these little diagonal lines across it as well. So yeah, I mean, people will say it's not hugely different to last season, but it's updated. It's nice. Yeah, I think it'll be a good look, and the players, of course, will be wearing it tomorrow.
Absolutely, and talking of that game tomorrow up at Wembley, it was a tough game on Boxing Day. They'll be looking to put in more of a showing tomorrow, won't they?
More of a showing than losing 0-5. That is absolutely for sure. That was a weird game, that one. Bournemouth coming away wondering how they'd lost 5-0, but didn't play very well for large parts of it. I mean, the key stat, again, we've spoken about it before earlier in the season, is that Bournemouth have never beaten Tottenham. They've gone one better than Man City because they've got a point against them. But yeah, it's the stat I've been looking at in the last couple of days when I've been preparing for this game is that the only time that Bournemouth have got a point against Tottenham is the only game that Harry Kane didn't play. He's not going to be playing tomorrow, so use that as positively as you will. Albeit here, of course, last season he limped off after half an hour, and Bournemouth still lost 4-1, having taken the lead 1-0. So, yeah, Spurs under Pochettino. Of course, the timing for them between those 2 Champions League semi-final legs. Pochettino said they looked a bit leggy and a bit short of energy in midweek, so I would expect there to be changes tomorrow. Of course, the problem he's got is that they are fighting on the Premier League front as well, so you can't just abandon the Premier League and in the chase of the Champions League, which they've got it all to do on Wednesday night in Amsterdam. But hopefully that might work well for Bournemouth. That this game is probably out of the 3 games they've got, the 2 legs and this one, this is the least important. They look pretty solid for a place in the top 4 at the moment. So hopefully a bit of a 1 or 2 changes. But of course, 1 or 2 changes in the big teams is still very good players coming in. So, and they made a couple of changes on Boxing Day, of course, as well, and still won. So yeah, I know Eddie Howe has huge respect for Pochettino, who did a very good job down the road at Southampton, of course. So, yeah, it'll be nice to hopefully see a good game.
And you mentioned that Ajax game, potentially Spurs having an eye on that must-win one on Wednesday. And of course, last time in the Premier League, they lost to West Ham at their new stadium. Yeah,
it's not been a good week for them so far. 2 1-0 defeats at home, to lose that unbeaten record, as you say, at the new stadium, and then to follow it up against Ajax. Of course, when you take, this point was made on TV in midweek as well, when you take Harry Kane and Son's goals out of it in the Ajax game particularly, that's 40-odd goals you've taken out. They are going to struggle. The likes of, Llorente has not played a lot of football this season, so we'll see. He'll probably be leading the line, although Son is going to be back fit, I think, which is bad news for the Cherries. Whether Tottenham risk him or not ahead of the Champions League, I don't know, but he'll certainly be fit enough to be in their squad. Vertonghen looks like he might be struggling. Of course, we saw him with that concussion issue in midweek as well. We've got 1 or 2 other problems as well at the moment, but the likes of Wanyama are back. So, yeah, he's had a bit of a sort of fluid squad this season as Pochettino. And you think of like Dele Alli, for example, didn't particularly get in the game the other night. So again, players who maybe have a little bit to prove ahead of that return leg in Amsterdam.
Absolutely, and as you say, just because there's no Harry Kane doesn't mean there's not stars littered all over that team. As you say, Son potentially being back, Wanyama.
Yeah, Lucas Moura, of course, scored against Bournemouth on Boxing Day as well at Wembley. So, yeah, there's a whole host of stars there. And actually, you look at the scores in recent times, the games here have been 5-1, 4-1 and 0-0, which actually was also a lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday, some may remember, and was a really good 0-0. So, I'd take a 0-0 now if it was going to be as entertaining as that one was. It was a really good game. So, yeah, hopefully the omens, no Kane, excuse me, Saturday lunchtime kickoff, maybe it could point to getting another point. And, of course, Bournemouth are 2 points behind where they were last season. So with Palace still to come, we've been talking about the record points total. It's still on after the one last week, but I think it would be nice to at least go past last season. Eddie's perception, he says that internally he feels that the team has improved. He doesn't judge it all on the points column. Problem is, people outside do judge it on the points column. Fans, other people outside the club will look at the points column and say, well, you got 44 last year and you've only got 42 at the moment this year. So I think taking the chance in these 2 games to get at least 44, so a couple of draws or a win in one of them would take Bournemouth past last season. I think that's, certainly for a lot of other people, that would show a bit of progress.
And in terms of our injury news going into the weekend, it's not looking too rosy, is it? Dan Gosling potentially being out. Eddie Howe mentioned David Brooks, Dominic Solanke, Adam Smith is touch and go. The list keeps growing, doesn't it?
It does. Dan Gosling will be a bit of a miss actually if he doesn't make it. He is touch and go at the minute, I think, because again, central midfield locker is looking pretty bare there. And actually, I think Dan Gosling's been playing pretty well the last few weeks. I think his energy, he obviously captained the team for a bit when it was difficult, but I think particularly in the last 3 or 4 games, he's really driven things on from central midfield, particularly away from home where the form has just improved a little bit. So he will be a big miss. It might be a chance again for Emerson Hyndman. We saw him get thrown in at the Burnley game, the back end of last season, and get given a chance. So having come on at Saints, maybe there'll be a chance for him. Adam Smith against his old club, I think he is 50-50. Dom Solanke again, just having little niggles, because you think he might be in line for a start in one of these last 2 games to give him something to take into the summer. But if he's got another problem, then that's not ideal for him either. So, and I think Ryan Fraser will be fine, having not been fit enough to start last week. But yeah, certainly central midfield would be the big worry, I think.
And just finally, last home game here, it would be really great to give the fans something to cheer about and go into the summer on the back of.
Yeah, no win in 5 at home, which, given how strong the home form has been, not just this season but last season as well. Actually, the home record is almost identical to last season. I think one more defeat would make it an identical record to last season at home. And it is strange, particularly with the fixtures that have been here. Newcastle, the last-minute equaliser, then Burnley. There's been a couple of fixtures there you would have expected to win. So it's a shame the home form has tailed off, because I think that paints a slightly false picture of how good this place has been this season. So yeah, to sign off, at least a draw, I think, if here's me saying at least a draw against Tottenham. A performance even in defeat would be nice for the supporters. And a 5th season in the Premier League is absolutely guaranteed. So either way, hopefully it will be a nice reception for the team at the end of the day, and the traditional lap of honour. And it's nice it's not a 7:45 kickoff, and the youngsters or the family members with their little sort of dad shirts on can wander around, not at midnight, but actually at a reasonable hour.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be a very exciting game. If you are coming to Vitality Stadium tomorrow, don't forget to go into the Superstore and pick up your new home shirt, which the players will be wearing for the game, as Kris was very kindly modelling there. And thank you very much for joining us. That's all we've got time for.